feelings about the traffic in Los Angeles. It says something that local officials warned motorists about a temporary roadwork closure on the 405 last year by calling it Carmageddon. Angelenos took the hint, and this weekend they're expected to steer clear of the latest 405 closure, named, of course, Carmageddon 2. That's how it is in L.A., a snarl of overstuffed freeways and commuters who keep their cool, except when they don't. KPCC's Stephen Cuevas has this profile of a punk rocker whose music expresses the insanity of L.A. traffic while extolling the virtues of public transit.
Couple of things you need to know about Eddie Solis. He lives in L.A., loves the band Kiss, and does not own a car.
Being someone who's from L.A., born and raised, and, having a few cars in my past, I saw the city much differently, through a different perspective, through the eyes of a bus rider.
Want to just go all the way to the back? Sure.
Line 18, Wilshire, Western Station.
Just steps from the front door of his home, across the street from a tortilla factory in LA's Boyle Heights neighborhood, Solis catches a bus that connects him with the city's subway and the commuter train he catches to his day job at an indie record label in Hollywood.
It just opened me up to little neighborhoods, galleries, clubs, bars, just everything. Just seeing what's out there, little pockets of the city.
Solis's journeys aboard LA buses and subway cars informs a lot of the material on The New Los Angeles Part 1, Through the Eyes of a Bus Rider, the latest release by the singer-guitarist band It's Casual. In Solis's vision of a new Los Angeles, people abandon their cars, climb aboard public transit, and rediscover their communities. One song extols the virtues of the LA County Metropolitan Transit Agency's Easy Pass and the urban underbelly it introduces to the rider.
And that's a nod and homage to, the people who know what you could even go cheaper and really beat the system and really steer away from spending money on gas and oil profits and all that. $50 is all it takes for me to get to work. Is all it takes for me to witness racial tension, for me to witness illegal aliens. It's not to paint a negative picture. It's just my perspective of what is seen. Easy pass.
I got a funny backstory.
Off the bus and back on the street, we make our way past a jazz saxophonist playing for pocket change and down a long escalator to catch a train. So, where are we now?
We're at the Red Line station, the Pershing Square station in downtown LA.
And what's our destination?
We're going to go downstairs another tier, and in about 5 minutes we're going to get on the Red Line going northbound.
Okay, let's go. The Metro Red Line snakes from North Hollywood to downtown Los Angeles. It's the train that inspired It's Casual's signature tune and spawned a viral internet video. It was partly filmed late at night on a moving train as it hurtles from station to station. Solis thrashes away on his guitar and barks the lyrics, which celebrate the Red Line and call out the congested freeways that coil around Los Angeles.
Este es un tren del Metro Red Line a North Hollywood.
The 210, the 605, the freeways are not so nice. The I-5, the 210, the freeways are not so nice.
The thread that comes out of the record that ties everyone together is just be alive. Don't be a victim of having a car.
An MTA spokesman said he couldn't comment on Eddie Solis's furious pro-Metro message, but the Red Line video was a hit at the offices of Move LA.
Eddie's done a good job. Thank you, Eddie.
It's the public transportation advocacy group headed by former Santa Monica Mayor Denny Zane. He liked the juxtaposition of Solis blissfully riding LA public transit in one scene with scenes of the band raging against those notorious freeway jams.
Eddie is all frantic when he talks about highways and so mellow when he's grooving on a skateboard and on the bus and on the Red Line. There's a metaphor for the transformation, from the, oh my God, I just got to get out of the traffic to, hey, this is cool. I can mellow out.
Or you can blast a tune like Too Many People as you claw your way across Los Angeles by car, bus, or skateboard.
Los Angeles, there's too many people. I want them to go away, even though everything's afraid.
Too Many People could also be a motto for It's Casual. Over the years, the band whittled itself down to a power duo of Solis and a rotating cast of drummers. So you may think the burly, bearded punk rocker just can't get along with freeways, with people, or his native L.A. Not true.
I love it. I love everything about it. I've traveled throughout the U.S. many times, and I could never look forward enough to coming back. The weather, the different cultures, the landscape. I was just like, you know what? Now I know everyone moves to L.A.
Solis will bring the love and the volume during a Red Line mini tour next month. It's Casual will play a different venue within walking distance of several Red Line metro stops from Union Station to West Hollywood. For the California Report, I'm Stephen Cuevas.
The California Report, a production of KQED Public Radio in San Francisco. Our director this week is Nina Thorson. Seal Muller is our technical producer. We had additional engineering from Danny Bringer and Howard Gelman. Thanks to Hank Hadley at KCBX. Our online team includes Lisa Pickoff-White, David Marks, and Don Clyde. Our interns are Catherine Borgeson and Rachel Johnson. Tyke Hendricks is our elections editor with production help from Tina Lauerberg. We had editing support from Paul Rogers. Victoria Malione is our associate senior producer. Ingrid Becker is our senior producer. The news director is Bruce Kuhn. I'm Rachel Myro. Thanks for listening and have a great weekend. This is the California Report.
Funds for the California Report are provided by the James Irvine Foundation, expanding opportunity for the people of California and supporting the California Report since its premiere in 1995. And the California Endowment. Health happens in schools at calendow.org. And Chevron, investing in renewables, strengthening communities, and creating jobs. More information at chevron.com.
The 210, the 605, the freeways are not so nice. The I-5, the 210, the freeways are not so nice. The 101, the 405, the freeways are not so nice. The I-5, the I-10, the freeways are not so nice. The 210, the 605, the freeways are not so nice. I-5, the I-10, the freeways are not so nice. The red line, 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 the 210, the 605, the freeways are not so nice. The I-5, the I-10, the freeways are not so nice. The 101, the 405, the freeways are not so nice. The 605, the 101, the 101, the 101, the I-10, the 210, the 605, the 101, the 405, the I-10, the freeways are not so nice. The red line, 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 the red line.
So where do you actually live at?
Wait. Welcome to Los Angeles NISA, episode 122. I'm the show creator, producer, and host, Eddie Solis. And today, we're going to drift off from the last Los Angeles NISA format. We're going to bring in a guest that actually has a lot of history in Los Angeles through his skateboarding and
jiu-jitsu career, and his name is Tom Knox. Tom, how are you?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. You know, I'm very well aware of your skateboarding career. That's how I first heard of you. And this must have been about 88, I would say.
Yeah.
And, you know, I came to learn that you have a lot of roots and a lot of historicals into the jiu-jitsu sport. I want to talk about that. I believe that you may be using some of your skateboarding intuition during your training. I'm not sure, but I want to know. I want to find out these things. But I'll ask you. I'll ask you. Yeah. So it was always brought to my attention that you were a Central California guy.
Yeah.
And Visalia, right?
Yes, correct.
Tell me, where were you born and where were you raised?
Well, I was born in Torrance, California.
Oh, wow. South Bay.
Yeah, South Bay. And then we lived in Redondo Beach probably till I was like 4 years old. And my dad got transferred to the company he worked for to Fresno. And he didn't want to live in Fresno because I don't know if you've ever been to Fresno, but it's
I have. Tulare.
Well, Tulare's better than Fresno. Fresno's just a crap hole. You know, nobody wants to live there. So they chose Visalia, which is about 30 miles south of Fresno, to actually live. And so pretty much that's where I was raised, went to school, and started my skateboard career. But our family, I had aunts, uncles down here in the Los Angeles area.
And you still do? You still have family
yeah, most of them are dead now, passed away.
Right.
But my aunt and uncle, my aunt used to babysit Skip Engblom.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a crazy story. I didn't even find this out until I was already pro for Santa Cruz, and I was talking to Rich Novak, the owner.
Yeah.
And Skip shows up at NHS for a meeting the same day I'm up there, and he's like, hey, yeah, you're, he's just telling me this. He's like, yeah, your aunt used to babysit me. I'm like, are you kidding me? And I asked her, and yeah, she's like, yeah, I used to babysit some skateboarder named Skip or something.
Wow.
No, it's a pretty crazy story.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool story because kind of like that energy was already installed in your life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I didn't even know it. You know?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So you were in Visalia.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And,
I went to school there. Like I said, that's where I started my skateboard career. But as soon as I started skateboarding, skateboarders travel, and the first place anybody would come would be Southern California. So I mean, I spent a long, lot of road trips to Southern California riding my skateboard.
Yeah, especially when you got sponsored AM and then became pro, probably more often than you ever thought.
Yeah, and when I started skateboarding, it was like 1983. So by the time the mid 80s came around, Venice Beach was the place to go and skate,
The wall,
exactly.
The pavilion.
Exactly. So that's where we always went, was Venice Beach,
There's always, I'm always looking at things in more positive light, but there is reality to certain things. Being from here and, and going there when I was very young, I remember this, I could pick up, intuitively this stigma of locals only.
Oh, man.
Right? I mean, even for someone that had an attachment to a major company, Santa Cruz.
But even before then, I think I was still am for Santa Cruz. This is probably like 1987, and we went to Venice, and the wall was going that day, and there's quarter pipes, and Christian was down there, and Eric D. I mean, Jesse, all the heavies were there,
right?
And I was just like literally a 16-year-old kid that just got sponsored by Santa Cruz, and I remember Eric and Christian and all these guys vibing me when I was down there. And like I said, it was a heavy local scene,
right?
Right. And I still give Eric crap to this day about it. He's like, no, it wasn't me. It was Little Man.
Yeah. All those guys.
They were saying it was everybody else. I'm like, no, dude, you were vibing me too,
Yeah. So you would come down and immerse yourself in that LA culture at that time and go back up. When did you step on the skateboard? What year? And did you immediately fully commit to the sport, to learn tricks and to risk hurting yourself, or did that take time?
Well, I mean, I probably got my first skateboard in, when I was like 10 years old, probably like 1981, but that was like just a little crappy Veriflex board. My first real skateboard was actually a Dwayne Peters hand-me-down that I got.
Santa Cruz one?
Yeah, in like 1983. And so I was 12 years old. I think I just started 7th grade, So that's, my buddy had a quarter pipe down the street. So
awesome.
we would try like little grinds and hand plants on the quarter pipes. And then I started riding my skateboard to school. And then my buddy built a half pipe, learned to drop in. And then, from there it just took off, And I would say by 8th grade, that's when I was like literally, trying tricks. But, this is, 1983, 84, so vert was still like king, so it was all about, well, at that time we would ride ramps, but we would make trips to Del Mar, and Upland. Yeah. No, I mean, we had friends and family that would drive down, and so we'd go to Del Mar or Upland because those are the only skate parks left,
Yeah, exactly. From my experience, being from, born and raised LA and then skateboarding in 87, first video was Wheels of Fire.
Oh, nice.
Then Streets of Fire.
Yeah.
Then I really latched onto the whole, Santa Cruz line.
Yeah, well, so, I mean, by the time the mid-'80s hit and street skating started kicking in, like I said, we were coming to Venice, and then, like, the spot to be was, like, Venice High because it had the big hip, and Nadas had all this footage there.
Alien Stranger, all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, this was sort of the mecca of street skating back then. And I always had more of a connection down here anyway than I did going up north. Even though my sponsor was from up north, I always felt more comfortable coming down to Southern California and skating. Maybe it's just the weather or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's all that, right?
Yeah.
Stigma, the vibe, people. So talking about vert, I mean, I was just watching some of the old videos, just kind of reminiscing. You're coming in. I was like, I'm going to watch these. And I remember, Risk It and Speed Freaks. What I liked about your parts is that you skate all terrain. It's not just street.
Yeah.
It's vert, skate parks, bowls, pools. Now, the half pipe that you have a lot of footage on, it's in Visalia. It's the YMCA, right?
Yeah, that was at the Visalia YMCA. And they built their first ramp in 86 is when they built it. They had a skate camp. It was the first skate camp that was ever in the United States.
Before Woodward?
Way before Woodward. So their first camp was in 85, I believe.
Wow.
And so they had a skate camp, and then that summer after the camp, they took the ramp and they put it at the YMCA in Visalia, and then they got another half pipe somewhere else, I forgot. But they basically connected the two together. So at the time, it was like a 60-foot wide ramp, which was like the biggest in California.
Right.
And so, I just grew up in an era, like I said, I started skating when, vert and skate parks were king, and then street skating sort of took over. But, man, we just didn't care. We just would ride. We just wanted to skate all day, whether it was pools, park, street, vert, whatever,
Yeah. Now, skating all terrain, I have to ask you, where did you come up with the kickflip to wall ride?
I don't know, man. I mean, I was just, like I said, me and my friends, basically what we would do, we would like street skate all day long. And then, as the sun was going down, we'd go skate the ramp. But so, I mean, we would just try tricks all day long, Yeah. And like I said,
push the limits, right?
Yeah. And, Nadas and Gons were always like the two big guys pushing the limits on street skating, in my opinion. I mean, there's a lot of great street skaters. Julian's one of them. Tommy Guerrero. There's a lot of guys at that time that were really, really pushing the limits.
But for you, I mean, would you really refer to?
I would refer to Nadas and Gons as the guys, because Nadas, like I said, just all that original footage, from spinning on the fire hydrant to jumping over trucks, and he was just the king like that. And then Gons really did push the envelope on like technical street skating. So, I don't know. I mean,
I agree. I mean,
one of those things that it's like the natural progression of any sport, like that. It's just you start combining tricks. Okay, if I can kickflip on the ground and I can do a wall ride, let's try to kickflip to the wall ride. You know?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just natural progression.
And then you visualize this, and then that kind of like you sharpen your intuitive skills in a way. Kind of visualizing like what you want to do, then taking the steps to actually do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like if you watch like vert skating now, like every trick they do has some sort of board flip, or it's just insane. It's like video game skating, but in real life now. You know what? That's how guitar playing is now. Yeah, it's ridiculous. No one learns the 12-bar blues no more. It's this complete shred. Just shred from the instant, Yeah. Right? Yeah. No, for sure, sure. And it's so funny is I had Salman Aga on here. Okay. And he said the same thing about video games and skateboarding. Yeah. He was like, and then I had, I think it was Mark Kendall from Great White, and he was like talking about how kids just go straight into shredding. Yeah. Yeah. Without building a foundation. That's a whole nother conversation. Yeah, yeah. But like Salman, he was another guy that he took what was going on in street skating at the time and then said, all right, well, I'm going to do everything the opposite stance. So if you're a goofy foot, he did everything. He's the one that pretty much brought switch stance into the mainstream. I mean, without a doubt. The dude was just, he could ollie just as high the wrong way as he could the right way. So I mean, right. So being in Angelino, being like 12 or 13, watching these videos and seeing the Visalia ramp, and like there being no skate parks in LA at the time. Yeah, just like the launch ramp we built, dragging out in front of my house. Yeah. What was the skate camp like in Visalia? Because I remember seeing the half pipe and knowing that's the Visalia vert ramp that you were skating. Yeah, well, I mean, it was an attraction. There was people from literally all over the nation that were coming to ride that camp and that ramp. But for the most part, it was a lot of guys from San Diego and Los Angeles area coming up to the Y to ride. And one of the first guys that was coming up a lot and skating and staying weeks at a time was Jason Jesse and Steve Clare.
Really?
And through meeting Jason, that's how I got the Santa Cruz connection. You know?
Okay.
So, and, you know, he was, at the time, was from like San Clemente, and I think that's where Steve Clare lived too, you know?
Yeah.
But I mean, there's guys coming up literally every week and just spending weeks at times. The one crew that used to come up all the time was Ben Schroeder, Chris Robinson, actually all the Schroeder brothers, you know?
Alec.
Yeah, they're sort of the Inland Empire guys, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, all the Schroeder brothers, Chris Robinson, Eric Nash, Steve Silician. I mean,
Steve Silician,
yeah, I mean, some really great skateboarders.
Yeah, actually, the first time I saw you skate in person was at a place that Alec built in LA in the 90s called Transitions.
Oh,
You remember
yeah,
that?
yeah. At East LA. Oh, man.
East LA.
That's honestly, to this day, one of my favorite vert ramps.
Really?
I love that ramp. It's so perfect. And we had some epic sessions there.
Yeah.
Man, some good sessions.
So, yeah, you totally remember that, right?
Dude,
On Atlantic,
Transitions.
right there.
Yeah. I mean, I can honestly remember a session one day. It was me, Eric D., Christian, Lance. Dude, it was like a who's who. And I really liked that ramp because it was wide, had good extensions. Yeah.
Cool.
Sick
Yeah.
ramp.
Yeah. And so when he said Alex Schroeder, I was like, oh, you know what? How funny, because the first time I saw you skate, you know, in the flesh was at a park Alex Schroeder built.
Yeah.
Transition started out on another street. It was just two mini ramps.
Yeah, I went to that one too.
Yeah, it was in a storefront.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. I
And
went
then
to
he
that one
moved
as
it
well.
to the car dealership and took over. It was like they had the indoor course.
Yes.
So cool.
Yeah.
So tell me, when you met Jason, how quickly did you end up connecting with Santa Cruz and becoming a part of the company? And
it was probably a while between that. I mean, at least a year and a half. I mean,
to develop relationships and
I mean, basically what happened was, he kept coming up, and then a lot of the Santa Cruz team would come by, and so like it was like Jeff Hedges, and then the team manager, photographer at the time was Steve Keenan. They had a bunch of contests there, so I met a bunch of the guys that rode for Santa Cruz, and then in 1987 there was a skate camp at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo.
Wow.
The YMCA started moving it around. They needed bigger venues.
Oh, okay.
So they started holding them at universities, and that year was 87. Yeah, it was at Cal Poly. And I was working there, just doing whatever they wanted me to do, cleaning dishes, anything I could just to be at the skate camp. And Jason was there just staying as a resident pro skater. And they brought the team manager, who was Gavin O'Brien, and a couple other guys. And, they just hit me up. They said, hey, we're going to sponsor you as an amateur, started flowing me product. And then from there, it just took off, started doing the contest series because the contests were really important back then,
Absolutely.
And just took off from there.
Now, being so passionate about skateboarding and getting like your first flow from the company, like what's that feeling? Did you just get like a big box of stuff and was like, whoa, this is great?
Yeah, I mean, it was beyond great.
That little kid in you comes out.
Yeah, I mean, because you got to remember at that time, there's 3 big skateboard companies: Santa Cruz, POW, and Vision. That was it. Right. There's a lot of other smaller companies, obviously Zorlax and the smaller companies, but I mean, it literally was the Ford, Chevy, Dodge of skate. It was the biggest 3 skate companies. And I was never a POW guy because, the POW guys, they were like, I mean, they're great skateboarders, but, the clean cut image,
Total, yeah.
Yeah. And then the Vision guys were just like total, like, I don't want to offend anybody. It was like sort of kooky, the day glow.
The floors and baggy pants.
And it was sort of bummer that Gons was included in that, but he didn't last long. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they were great skaters, but it's just not even my cup of tea like that, So Santa Cruz was like the punk company.
Yeah.
Totally. It had Dwayne and Steve Olson.
And all the videos had like Black Flag and Blast and all those great bands.
Without a doubt, that was like the company to ride for. So, and then, in getting on Santa Cruz, you're automatically on Independent, and at that time, Speed Wheels, so it's like the 3 best brands just right there. Yeah, it's like a dream come true.
Sure. Yeah, that's killer. So funny. So was there a name, like a nickname for an area in Visalia? Because when I had Salba on, he told me that Upland and Pomona was called Badlands.
Yes.
That whole area. And I didn't know that. Yeah. I knew, it's Dogtown and there's Sadlands, you know, in Anaheim. And it's all, skateboarding is very regional, as you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Was there ever like nicknames for any of the territory that you grew up in?
Man, no. Everyone just thought we were from the sticks, Because in Northern California, the Bay Area, or in Southern California, between Los Angeles, San Diego, the majority of the population of California. So, everyone just first of all, if you're from Central California, everyone just assumes you're from Fresno because that's the only thing they know.
That's the assumption, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, and it's just a really small town where I'm from. You know, I mean, even now there's like probably 150,000 people. It's not a big area by any means. But, yeah, there's really no nickname for it, you know, just these people knew, hey, yeah, he's that guy from Visalia. You know,
Gotcha.
That's
Gotcha.
about it.
Gotcha.
And people sort of associated Visalia because of the skate camp and that kind of stuff. So they sort of knew it was in the middle of the state somewhere, you know.
You know, you've always appeared to me at that time, with all the Santa Cruz pros, the guy that really focused on street.
Yeah.
I was out there on the concrete, you know, flat ground.
They told me from the beginning, like, you know, you're going to be our first street skater we're sponsoring.
Oh, okay. So they had a vision for you.
Oh, no, they totally had it. You're like, because at that time, you know, the transition, like I said, this was 86, 87, you know, vert was on its way out.
Almost dead.
Almost dead. So they saw the change and they needed to be bringing people in for that change. You know, I mean, vert had a few more years after that, but you know, they needed to start bringing in guys. And the funny thing is I also had an offer at the time to ride for Schmidt Sticks. You know, because I was pretty good friends with Steve Douglas, and he was pushing for me to get on Schmidt. And Paul Schmidt he's like, I don't know, I don't want to invest into a street skater. You know, so
yeah,
I probably wouldn't have rode for Schmidt Sticks anyway because it was owned by Vision. You know, and Brad Dorfman, man. You know, you know, but I mean, so people were still one-track mind on vert, you know, until they got that wake-up call, which a lot of guys did, you know, and it just died overnight, you know.
Literally,
I mean, I had guys that just did not like me because their careers died because of street skating, and they blamed it on every street skater. In fact, it happened at a contest in Visalia at the Y Ramp in 1990. I'm not going to name names.
Right.
But a couple of prominent vert skaters, and a lot of guys at the time, you know, didn't know that I skated vert. Everyone's just like, because I got marketed as a pure street skater.
So these people didn't know you were rooted in all territories, like
a lot of
terrains.
Yeah, there's a
like
street
pool.
skater. Yeah, so they saw me. There was a vert contest at the Visalia Y Ramp that I entered. You know, because it's my home ramp. Of course, I'm going to enter it.
That's where you practice.
Yeah, the NSA was doing a backyard series, so they were going to all these like local ramps and doing a summer contest series at backyard ramps, but basically local ramps,
right?
Ramps they didn't have to build. And so I entered it. I ended up getting like 5th place or something, like making the top 10, beating a lot of bigger name vert skaters.
Like 20 guys there?
Oh no, there was like, you know, probably 50, 60 pros. It was a big contest.
Big,
you know?
okay.
And you know, some of these pros were pretty mad, but I remember the dude that actually was like really stoked on me was Jeff Phillips. He's like, dude, awesome. I had no idea that you rode vert.
So he was stoked.
He was way stoked.
Awesome.
And that was actually the coolest thing because Jeff Phillips was one of my all-time favorite vert skaters. You know, guy was insane.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. So you know, I've heard you know, stories with the same lineage.
Yeah,
of like, you know, street skaters like, well, you know, the older dudes, you know, and vert purists were like not having it.
Yeah.
And really get very territorial.
Oh, for sure.
Over their skate territory, I guess, as far as the business end of it, like.
Oh,
because I guess maybe they sensed it was going to end.
Oh yeah, these guys saw their careers going down, you know. But they're placing the blame on these new young street skaters coming in when they should have been looking at their own selves, going, "Why am I just limiting myself to this?" You know, because you look at Mike V, the guy's an insane vert skater. Yeah. Mark Gonzalez is insane vert skater.
You know what's so funny?
You know?
Yeah, like
because we all started the same era, so we caught that tail end of vert, but transitioned into street. You know. There's so many guys like that you don't even know that are great vert skaters. Eric Costin, same way. You know?
Right.
Danny Way can skate anything, obviously.
Yeah.
So, I mean, some of these guys they were holding on to what started for them in the early 80s and got them rich in the mid 80s, and then they didn't see the writing on the wall, you know?
Yeah. And I think, you know, just to respond to that, there's a lot of, I would say, a lot of mystique in someone like Gons, especially now, right? And knowing, you know, that he skates vert, and people hearing this and not knowing how good he is, you know, I want to tell them, go YouTube something because the dude could do everything.
I can tell you, like, because I've had personal experiences because Gons would come. He was one of the guys that would come and stay in Visalia for days on end skating our vert ramp.
Wow.
And then he got a girlfriend in Fresno at the Arc ramp. I don't know if you ever heard of the Arc in Fresno.
Yeah.
So his girlfriend's mom owned the Arc. So he would be back and forth. Him and Lee Ralph would be back and forth between Visalia ramp and the Arc for weeks on end. So one day there was a session. It was like Mark Gonzalez, Lee Ralph, Joe Lopes, Jason Jesse, Steve Clare. Man, and this is at my home ramp, like down the street from my house.
Wow.
So I got to go there and skate with all these guys. And the one that was killing the session, Jason was probably the best one because this was when Jason was just at his peak. But
yeah.
Gons was right there with him. I mean, just ridiculous stuff.
And it's crazy because Gons has this stigma of like, this guy who crafted street skating the way he has with even the fashion and the company Blind and bringing all these guys like Guy Mariano into the spotlight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's like, dude, he has a huge lifespan on vert. And I've seen that. I've seen the footage before and been blown away.
Yeah.
And that's why I think skating is so great because it's, it could be so diversified. And that leads me to my next question is, when it comes to pools, how few and far between were they up there? I mean, did you have trouble finding them?
No. That's probably the best thing about living up there is you can throw a dart and hit a pool, an empty pool. I mean, even back then, because our houses are a lot farther apart than they are down here.
Okay.
So people have bigger backyards. So not everything's so much of a bust, I mean, and there's a lot of abandoned houses, especially this last foreclosure crisis. It was like a just crazy amount of
Like 7 years ago, right?
Yeah. I mean, and it's still that way. I mean,
wow.
It's easy. And so, I mean, from the time I first started skating, we had pools to skate, all shapes and sizes,
Yeah. I mean, that's one thing that came into my mind because I've seen your skate ability is pool, street, mini ramp, and vert. And I'm thinking the pool thing, you got to really find pools to skate pools.
Yeah.
So I was curious about the availability.
We would find them as we were street skating. So that's the best thing about, living in a smaller town is I can just get on my skateboard. I didn't get a driver's license until I was 21, until I met her,
Awesome.
So, I mean, I literally rode my skateboard as transportation, everywhere.
Car free.
Yeah, car free, exactly. Yeah. And I didn't even plan on getting a car or anything. So we rode our skateboards everywhere. And so you'd be skating down the street and see a house. Hey, that house looks abandoned. Let's look in the backyard.
Take a look.
Yeah.
Chances are.
That's how we play. Literally we'd spend our day, and this me and a couple of my skateboard friends that I still, talk to that were also pro skateboarders from Visalia, like Karma Tasha and Nanda Zip.
Yeah, he was on Dogtown, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then he went to Consolidated. But we would street skate in the morning, go to a pool, skate the pool, and then we would head over to my friend Scott, who had a kick-ass mini ramp in his backyard, skate that in the afternoon, go street skate some more, and then head over to the vert ramp, right before dark, get a session in, and then go street skate at night, like all day skateboarding.
That's killer. You know what? Yeah, I mean, your mini ramp parts, you just look like you're having so much fun.
Yeah.
You're doing all your killer street tricks on the lip.
Yeah.
And it just was so inspiring. In fact, it was so inspiring that I built a mini ramp.
Nice.
I had a 3-foot mini ramp.
Awesome.
And it was like, I want to say 8, 16, 24 wide. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And just slow transition,
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of it. I think that being able to adapt to these different terrains is kind of a good way to live your life because life always throws you challenges and stuff like that. So what I want to ask you is, do you use anything you've learned from skateboarding in your martial arts?
Oh, for sure. I mean, this is like one of the most common questions people ask me, is, hey, how do they correlate with each other?
Right.
Dude, they're almost the same,
Okay.
As far as skateboarding is limitless in its potential of tricks, or whatever you want to do with it, if you just want to go out and cruise, you're fine. You want to do tricks, you're fine, but it's limitless on the progression you can make on it, like you said, video game skateboarding. It's crazy the stuff they're doing now. And a sport like jiu-jitsu is the same way. It's limitless on the amount of transitions you can do to get into a submission or a takedown or it's just limitless. You'll never be able to not progress with a sport like that. And it has the same. Skateboarding takes a lot of concentration. To make a trick. You can't just you have to think about what you're doing. Otherwise, you're going to get hurt. So and it's the same way with jiu-jitsu. You have to have concentration. You have to be focused on what you're doing. I'd say the only difference is I can go out and skate by myself, but I have to have a partner to train jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. Would you say that coming from skateboarding, and not only coming from it, but being so immersed in the sport and the culture, that individuality that allows you to do it by yourself solo. Yeah. That stigma has been key in just inspiring you without having to be around a team.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so you carry that self-driven.
Yeah. But jiu-jitsu is the same way. It was like, skateboarding is an individual sport, but I was still on the Santa Cruz team. So you have that brotherhood with the Santa Cruz team or whatever the guys you're traveling with. And jiu-jitsu is no different. It is an individual sport. It's one-on-one competition, but you have a team of guys you train with, and you have a team that backs you, but you still get to have your own individuality, and it's really and it's exactly like everyone has a different style the way they fight. Just like when you watch somebody skateboard, they have a different style the way they ride. And the funny thing is there is a lot of skateboarders and surfers that train jiu-jitsu now. They've sort of, I don't know, especially in the last few years, it's really taken off. There's a couple pro surfers that are really into jiu-jitsu. I mean, and Chet Thomas was training down with Kleber with my instructor for a while in Huntington. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of guys that are starting to sort of do both. Mostly older, over 30 type skaters or surfers, but a lot of guys that do both now.
Interesting. Okay, so tell me about your history with jiu-jitsu. How long have you been doing it?
Man, I started jiu-jitsu in 1999, but I started judo when I was 4 years old. Basically, when we moved from Southern California up to Visalia, the first thing my parents did was put me and my brother in a judo program up there. Don't ask me why. They just decided.
Just did it to do it.
Just did it to do it.
And so you did it.
And so I started judo, which is really closely related to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Started judo when I was 4, did it pretty much, 3-4 times a week until I was like 15, 16 years old, when skateboarding just became too much. I started traveling. I didn't have any time to practice judo anymore. And I went back to judo when I was like 24. Skateboarding years the mid-90s were pretty bad for skateboarding, at least for me. And so I went back to college, started judo, and through doing judo, I met some guys that were training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And at that time also, like, the UFC had just came out. So it was like literally like UFC 1. And I'd seen Royce Gracie fight. I'm like, well, shoot, that's pretty close to what I'm doing in judo. And so I ended up meeting these guys and started doing jiu-jitsu,
Wow.
Yeah.
So as far as your judo chops, did you carry a lot of that into your early years of jiu-jitsu? I mean, it's very similar.
Yeah,
saying,
I
right?
mean, so all the takedowns, like judo's mostly focused on takedowns and throws. And there are submissions, chokes, and arm bars, but they're really, really focused in sport judo on just throwing the person. And so, yeah, I mean, when I started jiu-jitsu, I was already a black belt in judo. And so when I came into Brazilian jiu-jitsu, I had to come in as a white belt, but, I really wasn't a white belt because, these other white belts in jiu-jitsu mostly hadn't done anything, where I'd always had all this experience in judo. So it was sort of unfair, but I got my blue belt pretty quick, which is the first rank in jiu-jitsu.
Right. So if you had to articulate judo, jiu-jitsu, like, what's the difference? Like you said, judo is mostly about throws and takedowns.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you the quick history is judo started by a guy named Jigoro Kano, in Japan, late 1800s, He sent diplomats all over the world to spread the word of judo, Well, one of his guys ended up going to Brazil and teaching one of the first Gracies in Brazil, basically teaching him judo, And then the Gracies refined what they learned from this judo guy into their own sort of, they called it Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. So they took what they liked from the original judo and formed it into Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, which is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So
Gotcha.
That's how closely related they are, And one of the things, I stopped doing judo.
So you did it from 4 years old to how old?
Just like 15, 16. Then I said I started again pretty hard when I was like 23, 24 and did it pretty good again for another 4 or 5 years. And then that's when I started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I just liked the rules of Jiu-Jitsu better than the rules of judo because of the amount of submissions you were able to do. The match just didn't. In judo, you throw somebody flat on the back, the rules state, boom, the match is over. Whereas in jiu-jitsu, the match only stops when somebody, the time is up or somebody submits,
One or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, would you say being into judo first, did that help at all with skateboarding?
Oh, for sure.
Balance?
Balance. The main thing is learning how to fall and roll,
Wow. Wow.
So, I mean, that's the first thing you do in judo and jiu-jitsu is learn how to fall and roll and take a forward roll and a back roll. So, when I started skateboarding and you're, first years, you're trying all these tricks instead of just flopping down on my face and doing whatever.
I was able
to roll out of it. And then it really helped as you get to be an adult and, you're riding bird and then you're jumping down, when street skating came in and you're jumping down 12 stairs and, you don't want to just land on your feet. It really, really helped, more than anything is learning how to roll and fall, rather than just splatting, So it really does help,
Yeah. How does judo affect the psyche of a kid when he does it that young? Like, did you feel like, early on, just feel that were you disciplined enough to be like very reserved with it, or was it easier for you to just kind of like, take control of the playground?
Our instructor made it very clear, and the same thing to my students now. I make it very clear that, your jiu-jitsu, whatever you're training in, I don't care what martial art it is, it's only for, the gym or for self-defense, and you don't go around bragging that you do this, you do that, because there's always going to be somebody who wants to test you, So
even if the guy has no ability, just stupid.
Yeah, so it's more for yourself, and so I was always instructed, to only use this if you have to, and I think early on though it did give me the confidence, just even through in skateboarding, through training to judo to try stuff, knowing maybe I'm not going to get hurt because I know how to take these falls or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. So that leads me to the next question, which is being at the level you're at now, black belt, and having so many roots and a foundation built, and just being so well versed in this sport. When you go skate now, how do you feel as far as like your eye-foot coordination when you're like skating a mini ramp or a vert ramp?
Everything. I'm not even joking. I mean, everything feels the same now. Like when I go out and skate, as it did. Like trying the tricks and doing the tricks feels the same as I did when I was 16, 17. But okay, the falls. Here's what's when you're 16, 17, you can take 10 hard falls a day and just get back up and keep going. Boom.
And you've done that.
Get back up. But now, it's like one hard fall and it's like, okay, dude, I'm going home. I'm done for today. You know what I'm saying?
I'm done for today.
And it's not anything other than like, dude, it's like, you take a hard fall now, like boom, take a big body check into a wall or something, and like 2 days later, you're still like, oh, my shoulder, my hip, whatever, So it's like, you're getting older, so it takes longer to heal.
Right.
And you just have to skate smarter, and not do stupid stuff, like, I don't know. I mean, there's some days where, man, I feel like I can do any trick. And then there's some days where like, dude, I just want to go out and cruise and do some cars, do some grinds,
Just flow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it all depends nowadays. Like, if the session's pumping, there's a lot of people there, then I get more pumped up. But if I'm just out by myself, I just pretty much cruise. There's no point. I don't have to go do, 6-7 foot airs in a bowl by myself, Yeah. But I just want to go out and do some grinds,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So tell me, how often do you actually skate these days?
Man, it just depends on like how much I'm traveling for, jiu-jitsu or MMA fighting. Sometimes they work out together. I went out to a fight was that November? One of my fighters fought on Bellator in November, and we went to Pennsylvania, I think it was. Yeah, we were in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. And it was at the Sands Casino. That's right. It's a big old casino in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Huge resort, right? And so when I first found out that we were fighting there, I just wanted to see the casino, so I Googled it, right? And I'm looking at the street view. And I'm like, holy crap, there's a skate park literally across the street from the hotel. Like a sick park, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, dude, I'm taking my board. So we were there for 5 days. I went to the skate park every day.
That is awesome.
Literally across the street from the hotel.
So you had the best of both worlds across the street.
Yeah. I mean, I'll skate, once a week no matter what,
That's cool.
But, it depends, like if I get to go multiple days in a row. It's just like I said, between travel for all this fighting and jiu-jitsu or, I've had little injuries here and there that I got to sort of nurse, but, once, twice a week, always, Like you ask her, I always, at least on Saturday, all right, I'm going street skating. I just take off and I'm gone for a couple hours,
That's cool. So, now, being in the Visalia area, right, are there any spots that still exist that you grew up skating?
Almost all of them.
What?
Yeah, that's why people trip out on like, dude, I go to the same spots. I post them on my Facebook all the time.
And people are like, what is that from?
Yeah.
You know?
They're like, how old is that photo? I'm all, dude, I just went there this weekend. What are you talking about? Like, literally, I mean, I would say 80% of them. A lot of them have been skate stopped.
That's cool.
You know, or maybe the buildings or whatever I used to skate have been changed, you know.
Sure.
A lot of the pools are gone, but most of the street stuff that you've seen in any videos that I was in is still there, you know.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's go back to your professional skateboarding career with Santa Cruz. Tell me the feeling that you had when you saw your first pro model with your name on it.
Oh, man. I mean, like I said, it's, you know, the first deck I ever got from him was a Spidey. I don't know if you remember the
Really?
Spidey, the one with the skate bucks on the bottom, the
Yeah.
swindle.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was the first deck. And I remember just looking at that board and go, man, I can't believe, literally, I mean, I ride for the best skateboard company.
Sure.
And I get free stuff from them now, you know. So then, you know, and this is sort of different because back then, they would turn you pro without a model. You basically had to earn your model, okay? So they turned me pro in 1989. January 1989 is when I got my first paycheck. But they said, you're going to be pro for like a year before we put your board out. We're going to market you. We want to, you know, build you up, have a chance to build your name before we actually print a board with your name on it.
Like set up before the product comes out.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what happened was that was January 89, and I think it was February or March. There was a contest in Chicago, a street contest.
Okay.
And it was from Santa Cruz. It was me and Eric Dressen that went out there, and they just signed Eric from Dogtown literally the month before. You know, like I said, they were making that transition into the street phase.
That transition brought you and Eric together.
Yeah. And he was already like 2-time world champion from the 2 previous years. He was winning every contest, right? So in their mind, they're like, okay, we're going to send Tom and Eric out to the street contest. You know, Tom will probably make the cut and Eric's going to win, right?
So we're in a good position.
Yeah. And I won the contest, you know?
Whoa.
Yeah. So, yeah, second place was Tony Hawk. Third place was Christian. Fourth was Gons. I think Eric got 5th. So I beat like every big name, Mike V, you name it. Like the top 10 was a who's who. And
what year?
1989.
89.
My first pro contest. Okay, that's why they're like, it's his first pro contest, and I won it. So, like I said, I did a kickflip wall ride in my run. Okay, I didn't even have to take a second run at that contest because my first run, the points, nobody beat my points on the first run.
Wow.
So, but I said I did tricks, man, that were, you know, I'm not bragging or anything. I did tricks that people weren't doing then.
Sure.
You know, like you were like, what is going on here? It was like sort of like that. The only other guy that maybe was at the time that was like progressing, obviously Gons was always, but Gons sometimes would try stuff that was so far out there. His whole run, maybe he made one trick, you know, because he was trying this insane stuff. But Matt Hensley was the same way, you know. So Matt really, really had a lot of progression too going on. But, you know, I went out there, like I said, I won, and they didn't know what to do. They're like, geez, what do we do? This kid just won a contest, and he doesn't even have a board out. And so they scrambled to get my board out by April.
Oh, wow.
You know, like literally scrambled, you know. And so, you know, literally I got back from Chicago. They're like, all right, we're going to have you meet with Jim Phillips. We got to get a graphic going. We got to get a shape going, you know. And so it all happened so quick that I was like, by the time it came out, I'm like, oh, well, cool. I got a board out, you know. It was just really, really quick the way it happened.
So, like such a whirlwind.
Yeah, it wasn't like I had time to think about it. It was like boom, boom, boom. And all of a sudden I had a board out because I won that contest, you know.
And by then, when the board was already out 3-4 months later, you were already like onto the next contest and traveling.
Yeah, exactly.
Here they are.
Yeah.
You know, and you're just like, okay, well, I got to be here. So
yeah. In fact, I think like my second contest was like a couple months later in Japan, you know.
Wow.
So
now going back to that first pro contest, do you remember the name? Was there an actual?
It was a Chicago Blowout. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, I think, I remember that. You know, with all due respect to Christian and some of the guys that are more versed in vert, I remember, you know, I think they're, a lot of their runs, you know, were like over hips and stuff, but very, you know, very like in the style of skating a ramp.
Yes.
Early grab.
And that's what the other transition
hip.
was. Like I said, back in the days, you know, when you see like the Savannah Slammer or these contests, they were all ramps and stuff.
Big quarter pipes, very vert-esque.
Or exactly.
Yeah.
This was one of the first contests where it was
street.
Yeah, we had ledges. They had a pyramid with no transitions. It was just banked hips.
Like
you know?
like concrete.
Yeah, so there was a lot more street-oriented obstacles on that course. So these vert skater type guys really stuck to maybe a couple obstacles, you know. But like I said, they still, like Christian Soy is literally one of the best skateboarders of all time. You can put him on anything and he looks like a natural on it, you know.
Absolutely.
But, you know, I think it was just due to that everything just sort of came together right there. So they had obstacles, like they had ledges and stuff there, and I'm like, dude, this is what I skate every day, you know. So I'm going to do tricks on this stuff, and that's obviously what the judges were looking for, you know.
Wow.
Versus a guy, you know, they still threw in a vert obstacle. Because I remember there was like a bank with some big old quarter pipe in the middle of it. There was Tony Hawk was doing 540s off of. But it's like, you know, come on, it's a street contest.
Yeah,
you know?
it's like, you don't roll up to a bank and see some guy pulling 540.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I mean, that's just a reality.
Yeah.
You know, no matter how good the street skater is.
Yeah, and so that was sort of the deal. Like from then on, like more of the contests got more street oriented.
Wow. So I mean, you truly were there. Even when a big brand like Santa Cruz made that adjustment, and then when contests were gradually shifting in the terrain.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's pretty interesting, because when things are in motion to a new change, that's when it's kind of like the most difficult, because that will pull people in and push people out.
Yeah, and it was it was good and bad at the same time, because it was sad, because a lot of my friends on Santa Cruz were just vert skaters, you know, guys I traveled with a lot and did a lot of demos with, you know. They were vert skaters, and they didn't have any interest in like reinventing themselves as a street skater, you know, and they literally just got pushed aside overnight, you know. Went from having great careers and making money to basically being you're fired overnight, which sort of sucks, you know.
Then the whole business aspect comes into it.
Yeah, you know, and then it's like, oh, I thought these guys were my friends. You know, you get a relationship developed with the guys who work for the company, and it becomes a friendly, great relationship. But then it comes time for those guys to do their jobs, you know, and it's a hard thing to do, you know, where, you know, you see friends literally having to cut friends, you know.
Yeah.
And it happened to me, you know, like, you know, skateboarding is very cyclical, you know, and you get a few good years, and then the next generation's coming in, they're right behind you, you know. And so like by 1992, 93, there was a whole nother generation coming in behind me, you know. And so me and Eric got pushed out, you know. And it happens, you know. You know, I was lucky I got a good 6-7 year run of like that, you know, but it happens to everybody, you know.
Tell me about some of your world travel with Santa Cruz. Let's talk about maybe, you know, one of your most memorable experiences outside the U.S. I mean, was there a contest, like your first contest in Japan?
I mean, well, that's a story all on its own. I mean, you can ask. That was a crazy trip. I mean, that was basically on that Japan trip. There was some Japanese skateboard association, okay, and they had a bunch of money from something, and so what they did is they paid like 50 of the top pros to go to Japan to skate in this contest. Then they had their Japanese pros too, but they paid 50 of the top pros. Like I said, street skaters and vert skaters, okay, like Christian, Chris Miller, me, Nodis, I mean Eric Dressen, like the top guys at the time. They paid for 50 of us to go to Japan to skate in this contest.
Wow.
But the problem was they put 50 pro skateboarders on the same airplane, okay, at the same time. And me and Nodis were like the only pro skateboarders that didn't drink and didn't do drugs like the rest of them, you know.
You guys were just clear, in the moment, coherent.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I actually sat next to Jay Adams because they brought him over as a celebrity judge. Okay, so I sat next to Jay that entire flight. And then this flight is legendary, dude. You can ask anybody, like, if you ask Christian or Eric D or any of these guys about that Japan trip, everyone will have fond memories of it, you know, because it was ridiculous.
Just the plane ride on the way was off the hook, right?
We almost didn't get let into Japan because it was that out of control, because you had Ben Schroeder on there, who was just notorious bad drunk. Craig Johnson, you know, all these just heavy.
All those Texas guys were there too, right?
Yeah.
John Gibson.
You know? And then, like I said, Jay was just out of his mind. You know, like.
So you were sitting next to him the whole time?
Yeah.
How old were you?
18. And Jay was probably like 30, which I probably thought was ancient back then. You know?
30?
Yeah, like, look at this guy. You know, and my only, you know, I was just like literally like, I think that was my first time out of the country, you know?
Right.
And so, You know, I'm like, and dude, I mean, it was like a who's who, and it was just a crazy trip, you know. And like I said, if you can ask anybody about that trip, and they'll know about it, you know.
Right.
That was on it, you know.
Right. And but the so when you were let in and the contest itself, I mean, that was your second pro contest. Right?
Yeah, the contest portion wasn't that great. They had really, really bad obstacles. The vert ramp ended up getting holes in it. The thing was, they paid really well because I think I got like third place and got like $10,000 or something
back then.
So this is 1989 money. So
that's 1989 money. That's
that's probably like winning $50,000 for third place now.
Sure. Sure.
But I mean, even that trip alone, I remember by the time we were a half hour sitting at the LAX lobby, these guys were already done drunk, you know? So by the time we got on the plane, it was ridiculous, you know?
Yeah. Now, we're going to take a music break.
Okay.
And when we come back, we're going to talk more about what you're doing with, your business and how you came to be a black belt and your travels and entering competitions and seeing your students enter competitions. I want to talk more about that.
Cool.
We'll be back.
Hey, this is Dimitri from Off, and you're listening to Car Free Radio Los Angeles Nista.
This episode of Los Angeles Nista is brought to you by La Mascota Bakery, a family-owned business serving the community since 1952. Tamales and sweetbread, made the old-fashioned way daily.
safe for yourself.
Knife in the face. It left no doubt. Knife in the face. This is reality. Knife in the face. That's what you think of me. This is the sound of a broken heart. I bared my soul and I had it ripped apart. This is the sound of shattered dreams. They flew too high and above their means. And all of those knives that were buried in my back, not one of them could stop me in my tracks. But the knife that got me, that put me in my place, is the one that you stuck right in my fucking face. Knife in the face. Knife in the face. Knife in the face. Knife in the face. Your handshake.
Hey, welcome back to Los Angeles Nisa, episode 122. My in-studio guest, Tom Knox. Tom, how are you?
Good, good. Thanks for having me again.
Man, all these great conversations about, the backstory to, your career with Santa Cruz and becoming pro. It's just really, really exciting to hear the articulation of, just all the work that goes behind it and the patience and the surprises. I mean, seeing your pro model come out in 4 months, and it's just really, really cool to hear because, when you're on the other side of the screen, seeing the videos, you just don't really know what's going on, especially in a time where there was no internet.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, kids who aren't in the industry, they're just fans, just skateboard kids. They have a view of skateboarding one way and the skate stars one way. I was the same way. I was a kid. I started out as a kid, as a fan, so in my mind, I viewed everything's going to be this way and these guys are going to be this way. And then when you get to know the pros or whatever, the guys maybe you looked up to, you're like, man, these guys are just normal guys, just like I was, They've just made it,
Right. So, I just think it's really special to hear, just the components that go into a result.
Yeah.
And we're going to get into your career in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu now. And but before that, I want to give some commercial shout-outs to Amoeba Music, Deathwish Skateboards, Flood Control Skateboards, Music Revolution, El Cholo Restaurant, and the Camistar blog. All supporters of the show, and wanted to mention them in the episode. So let's get to it here. As far as martial arts go, I mean, there's so many different types and genres that exist.
Yes.
Right? Now, why do you think you gravitated towards jiu-jitsu?
Most likely because of my judo background. But, I would say even if I didn't have a judo background, maybe because of my skateboarding background, just the progression, I would say, in jiu-jitsu. And jiu-jitsu is one of the few martial arts that actually becomes more like a lifestyle, just like skateboarding or surfing. When you see people who really get into it, it becomes their lifestyle. Just like a skater or a surfer is a skater or a surfer, a jiu-jitsu guy is a jiu-jitsu guy, and they live it, breathe it, eat it, sleep it. Everything revolves around it, and I just see it happen, not just for myself, from my students. I have whole families that everything revolves around jiu-jitsu now. Their entire family, because the whole family trains together and they just love it, So it really is like skateboarding or surfing where it does become a lifestyle and that's what you are,
Yeah, I mean, you create your world with it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Now, it just seems like if you commit to that sport and everything revolves around it, it could definitely be a component in one's life that will strengthen you, not only physically, but mentally, intuitively, and just maybe even emotionally, because you're able to transcend certain feelings.
You're 100% correct. I mean, there's situations, when you're training in jiu-jitsu that you have to survive through, bad positions where guys are literally, going to be trying to break your arm or choke you unconscious, or just really, it makes you have to concentrate on surviving through the worst situations so you can apply that to anything in life, So, I mean, just knowing jiu-jitsu and learning how to cope with bad situations applies in life of, learning how to cope through bad situations or be strong to survive in certain situations. And more than that, it just helps you relax in bad situations and not panic or do whatever, 100%, I think that, you can definitely say what you did about that,
Right. Now, let's talk about the Kleber Jiu-Jitsu Visalia elite team.
Yeah.
You're the owner and CEO.
Correct.
When did you decide to make a commitment to become the businessman that you are and take on the responsibility of facilitating students and everything that comes along with that role?
Well, we were living in Newport Beach, me and my wife, in 07, 08, and I was training with Kleber, living in, he lived in Huntington, his school's in Huntington. We were living in Newport, and a couple of things happened, where we were going to move back to Visalia, and one of the main things that maybe have no problem moving back there was that there was nobody in Visalia doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu the right way. And I saw a really good opportunity to open up a school there and start.
There was a void that you filled.
Exactly. There was people trying it, but they just weren't doing it right. Either because they didn't have the rank or the knowledge, or just the whole environment of their school was wrong, or they were trying to do too many things, And so I had the mindset of, I'm going to open up a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school only and teach it the right way, which I saw through my instructor Kleber, the way he had operated his school and the success he's had. And I said, I want to go do that where I'm from, and it just sort of grew from there.
So you committed to installing it in your hometown.
Correct.
And through your experience.
And this is something I wanted to do. I enjoy doing jiu-jitsu and I enjoy teaching it. It's no different than if I was teaching somebody to skateboard. I would love to do that, So it's sort of the same passion I had for it. And let's just be honest, doing it down here in Southern California just would never happen, just on many reasons. I mean, just based on rent alone. And literally in Southern California, between Los Angeles and Orange County, you throw a dart, you hit a black belt world champion Brazilian guy down here. So, I mean, there's just many reasons why it would be way harder to do it down here than it was in Visalia.
I mean, it's more populated.
Correct.
It's a bigger space. There's a lot more of everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's just a million reasons against doing it down here,
Right. I mean, you're very smart for doing it, and I think it's kind of a calling or to take it back to where you're from.
Correct.
And have the roots of your hometown returning with your experience.
Yes.
Saying, well, I'm doing it here.
Yeah. And it people will recognize me. Oh, it's Tom Knox, skateboarder. He's got his jiu-jitsu school. Kids are stoked when they come in. They're like, oh, my instructor rides a skateboard and he's pro too, So it's like, it all worked out the way it did for a reason, But
I think that's great. I mean, as far as the art of teaching, it seems like no matter what you're teaching, there's an art to teaching.
Oh, correct. Yeah, I mean, you have to have patience. You have to be nice. A
lot of mental power.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, definitely. You got to have patience is the main thing. Because not everybody has athletic ability. So somebody who comes in and who's naturally gifted picks up a technique really quick. Versus somebody who comes in off the street who's never done anything in their life. They maybe not be the most coordinated person. Those are the people that need the most help and the most time, and you have to be patient with them, and you can't get frustrated with them, and you have to make them feel that they're just as important as anybody else who's better than them.
How long did you train in Huntington Beach with Kleber?
We lived there like 2 years. Like I said, I'd already been training jiu-jitsu with other academies, but once I met Kleber, man, I'd known him from just the tournament scene, and he'd always been a fierce competitor. I really liked his style, the way he rolled. And then when I first walked into his academy, the first day I walked in there, man, he was just super cool to me. And everybody in the gym, it was just a good environment. The last thing you want to do when you walk into a gym when you don't know anybody in there is have everybody giving you the stink eye and sizing you up, and nobody was like that there, which a lot of jiu-jitsu gyms are. As soon as
Yeah.
you walk in, it's like there's a target on your back, and they want to beat up on the new guy.
Right.
You know?
And that kind of comes with the territory, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like that, you know. It's sort of bad that it's that way. Not so much anymore, but, you know, back in the, you know, late 90s, early 2000s, it really was like that, you know. But, like, Kleber just has, if you ever met the guy, he's just a super nice guy, always happy. But that's the, you know, way he runs his whole academy. You know, it's a good training
So
environment.
there's like a lot of light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, it's about the art, which
Yeah.
is very physical, but he brings this whole like positive.
Correct. And then that's what I try and
Vibe to
do
it.
at my gym as well. You know, I don't ever want anybody feeling uncomfortable in my gym for any reason. You know, like I don't want anyone ever thinking in my gym like, oh, somebody's going to beat up on me. I'm going to get hurt. You know, that's bad for business, period.
Right.
You know, so I want everybody to feel that comes to my gym to be comfortable and feel that it's a good environment to train in.
How long has your gym been open?
6 years here in June. We opened June 2008. So a couple more months, it'll be 6 years.
Wow. So, do you remember the very first student you had in your gym?
Yeah. I started with 2 students, you know, a guy Josh and a guy Joe. That was my first 2 students.
Wow.
You know, and, you know, I started out with 2,000 square feet, then I expanded to 4,000, and now we're at 6,000. So, you know, it's just been growing, putting the money back into the business, but I've needed the space, you know. So next time I'm probably going to have to get another building if we got to expand more, you know.
Tell me, what you've learned from being on a teacher and business owner side of things. I mean, as far as, you know, in addition to the patients, tell me about the decisions you make. I mean, there's a lot on your plate because you're teaching and you're also making decisions for the future. I mean, what's your average day like?
Long, hard. No, some days are harder than others. Mondays are a long day, you know, because I teach a class 10 to 11, a 4 to 5, a 6 to 7:30. I do privates in between. And, you know, the thing is, being a teacher, you know, you do your regular training, and then, you know, the end of every class is actually free sparring. We call it rolling. And, you know, I end up doing that, and everyone always wants to be able to train with the teacher. So it's like, you know, I never get a break. So it's every day, every day, every day. You know, and by the time Thursday comes around, man, I'm broken down, you know, from just nonstop training, you know. So there's days when I just got to take, you know, I need a day off. Not teaching, just, you know, I'm only going to teach today. I'm not going to roll or free train or anything, you know.
Right.
But, you know, like I said, as a business person too, you know, I you know, and it's just me as the sole investor, you know. So I started it with all my own money.
Give you a lot of
and
credit
so
for that.
I gotta, you know, I watched where the pennies go, you know. But I do, you know, I could put a lot more money in the bank and keep it to myself, but I do put a lot of money back into the gym, you know. So I want a nice
care about
place that looks good. People they have something in their mind that when they walk into a jiu-jitsu school, they remember these old gyms where Rocky used to train, and they just have a boxing gym or just a ratty, dirty gym pictured in their mind. And I don't want that. So I try and take a lot of pride that our gym looks good and looks clean.
Because that reflects you.
Correct.
It's a representation of you.
Yeah.
You're the owner. You're the key teacher there.
Yeah, and like I said, people just think that, you know, boxing or MMA gyms are going to be these dirty, filthy places where just a bunch of like ruffians train, you know. And so I don't want it like that. So it's a nice, clean. Like people walk in, and I think the first thing they trip out on is how clean our place is. Like,
That's
wow,
great.
This place, it smells clean. It doesn't smell like a gym.
Sanitized.
Yeah,
It's clean. And,
yeah.
you know, I think that's kind of like, you know, a component to going into a situation like, you know, skateboarding, a jiu-jitsu situation where you got to have your environment balanced so you can really get in your head. You know, your head
for sure
is like, you know, going to create and visualize what you want to do and then actually physically do it.
Yes.
You're kind of in this like zone.
Yeah.
Not
for
kind
sure.
of, you are.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Right? So you're creating that environment for your students to be the best they can be.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I just, you know, I've been lucky that I got good helpers, you know, to help me, you know, clean and run the place when I'm gone, you know.
That's cool.
And they run it, like I said, they run it just like I do when I'm gone. So it's like, whether I'm there or not, the gym's being ran the same, you know. So I've been really lucky. Like I say, it's taken time, you know, 6 years in, and, you know, things are finally getting to the point where it's like on autopilot, you know.
Yeah, where like you built your framework.
Yeah.
or the wheel and it's moving every day on its own.
But I'll never get complacent, you know.
You got to stay inspired
exactly.
and motivated, right?
Yes, yeah. And I don't, you know, there's always competition, somebody coming behind you. So I always, you know, you stay cutting edge. And, you know, I learned that from skateboarding. The minute you get complacent in skateboarding, there's somebody else ready to knock you off, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And I think that that world of skateboarding, the challenges, the fast pace.
Oh, yeah.
Trends.
Yeah, it can change overnight.
Yeah, and you've seen it many times.
Witnessed it firsthand. It's happened to me. Like I said, 1 minute you're like the cool dude, you know, everything's all about you, and then literally overnight, everything turns to somebody else, a different style, this and that. And I, you know, like I said, I watched it happen about 1992, 93. You know, where this whole generation of like Mike Carroll and Eric Costin, Rick Howard, these were the guys that were, you know, coming up, you know, and you know. They were the new guys. You know?
Yeah, and that's like just basically life experience. You learn from that. You're
for sure.
And you're like installing that into your daily business. You know. Yeah. Now that you're 6 years deep, and I asked you about your first 2 students, how many students do you have total right now?
Oh, probably close to 200. You know. Yeah, I'd say close to 200 between adults and children. You know.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, like last night, what was our class? I think 43 at our night class last night. You know, so, I mean, it's just getting packed. That's why I had to keep expanding the square footage.
That's great.
You know?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, it just works out that, you know, luckily the students all train at different times, different classes according to their schedules, you know?
Yeah. Now, how many different tiers are there? I mean, do you teach it by belt?
No, all the belts are all mixed in. But we sort of separate it in the class, you know, who's more of a beginner versus who's more advanced, you know.
So within one class of like 40 people, you'll like
there's white through black belt. But
okay.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's sort of partnering it up according to rank, you know. And then if they're really, really brand new, they get put with an assistant instructor and get one-on-one instruction, you know.
Oh, very cool. So you tailor it accordingly.
Yeah.
It's not so rigid. It's very like tailored to the person.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, let's talk about some of your students that have gone on to really do, you know, really take what they've learned from you and compete.
Yeah, I mean, we have multiple, like, world champions, Pan American champions, and national champions in jiu-jitsu at our school, you know, literally of people that started with me with no experience, you know. So I created them from day one, you know. They came to me with no experience, and now they're world champions, you know. They didn't even have high school wrestling experience. Like, they'd never been on a mat, period.
Wow.
You know, so I take a lot of pride in that and being able to develop them and show them the art and make them into world champions. And then, you know, I've been lucky that we've had some very successful MMA fighters, pro fighters, that have gone on to bigger shows. You know, one of my friends who I grew up skateboarding with for a long time is the Bellator MMA Season 8 middleweight champion, Doug Marshall. And then we just had a fighter who came to us with basically no experience other than he was a college wrestler. And he just fought his first UFC fight 2 weeks ago on UFC 170.
In Las Vegas,
In Las Vegas. So, yeah, I mean, and we have 2 or 3 more that are right on the cusp of being in the UFC.
Wow.
You know? So it's all just, you know, learning the ways of training that I learned through my instructors, Kleber and Kings MMA and a couple other guys, just seeing how they ran their programs and just fine-tuning it and just tweaking it. But more than anything, it takes dedication. Just the same, said one of the main things I think that made Doug a champion was he was a skateboarder. He was a really good skateboarder. And skateboarding makes people tough, first of all. If you're not tough, you're not going to be a skateboarder for very long.
You quit.
Yeah, you quit.
You know,
First time you fall, I'm done. Put the skateboard in the closet.
Yeah, and I think, you know, someone at your level of skateboarding, my level, we've had friends that they get into it and they're just like, nah, I'm done.
Yeah. You know, the first injury scares them away. They don't want to come back, you know, or whatever. But you got to be tough, you know, you got to be talented.
Committed.
You know, committed. And I think more than anything, you know, being part of the street generation and the street skaters, it instilled a little bit of, like, street in people because, I mean, let's face it, there's we got in fights in the streets, you know, because you're on the streets all day long. So there's things that happen.
Sorry.
Yeah, you're going to meet up with something happens in the street. It just made you tougher that way, too. And that's what Doug was. He was a street skater, a good street skater, but he was also a tough guy that got in a lot of fights being a skateboarder, you know. And he just turned that into a profession, basically, you know. learning the skills of MMA and having the dedication from skateboarding. Like you said, you spend hours on a skateboard learning one trick. It's no different in jiu-jitsu or MMA. You spend hours perfecting one move, one punch, one kick, one submission.
Yeah, and that takes you visualizing what you need to do.
Yes.
And then physically materializing it through commitment and dedication.
Exactly.
And staying focused.
As I said, I mean, a lot of
even if you're getting thrown around for a while and starting to hurt.
And without a doubt, no difference. Like when you come in and you're the new guy in a jiu-jitsu or MMA class, yeah, you are the guy that's getting beat up on for a little while. Just like when you start skateboarding, you are the guy that can't make all the tricks and falls a lot, you know? And then you stick with it, and, you know, you get better, you know? So like I said, it just takes dedication and time.
I love that, how it's cohesive. Tell me about you yourself. Let's go back in time a little bit. When did you become a black belt?
In jiu-jitsu or judo?
Jiu-jitsu.
Jiu-jitsu, I got my black belt in 2009.
2009. So
Jiu-jitsu is one of the arts that takes a long time to get your black belt. It's just sort of there's a lot of other, you know, taekwondo, you know, karate, you can get black belts 2-3 years. Jiu-jitsu, you know, the average is 8 to 10 years before you get a black belt, you know. I mean, it's just sort of old school mentality that a lot of the instructors still keep, and it just takes a long time, you know. They want to make sure you're dedicated to it before they're going to give you that black belt.
That's half of it, huh?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
Showing dedication.
For sure.
What do you think, well, as far as you personally and you competing, you still out competing?
Yeah, I have, man, like I said, next weekend is, or actually next week, Wednesday through Sunday is the Pan American Championships at UC Irvine, which I've competed in. You know, if I haven't been injured, I've been competing in since 2002.
Wow.
You know? So, I mean, I still compete, but, you know, nowadays I just compete just to still do it. I don't care if I win a medal or not. I'd rather see my students have success than me. I got plenty of medals. I don't need any more.
Right.
You know, I want to breed people to win their first medals.
You want,
know?
I mean, it seems like, you know, you've, you know, that term, been there, done that.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've, you know, reaped the experience.
Yeah.
And the feeling and the process of that greatness.
Yeah.
That's probably the excitement, is like the process of that work to get that medal.
That's honestly the hardest part. The winning of the medal feels great, but the training it takes to get to win the big medals and be able to win them, that's the hardest part. And honestly, now that the hardest part is being able to train. I don't get to train hard enough because I have to teach, and I'd rather teach right now, you know, because I have students. So it'd be selfish of me to just, you know, train myself and use the students as training partners just so I could win a medal. You know, I'd rather, you know, give them the help, and if I win a medal, I win a medal.
And you're passing along your knowledge.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's you, but then through your students, you see, in a way, you can see yourself through them.
Exactly.
Because you directly
passed
along knowledge and physical ability.
Exactly.
You know, I think that's pretty rewarding, right?
Yeah, well, like I said, it's just as much as winning a medal myself, you know. Like I said, I have plenty of medals hanging on the wall. I don't really need any more. Like I said, if I go to the competition, if I win one, I win one. Like I said, it's not going to make a difference. You know, I'm not going to be brokenhearted. Like a lot of my students, if they go to these big competitions, they don't win it, they're like really bummed. And, you know, it takes a little bit of confidence building to get back in there, you know. But you got to realize most of these competitions, especially in California, and we take students to the bigger competitions. I don't want to waste time.
The little stuff.
At the little stuff, you know. So we take them mostly to the big competitions where it means something if you do win. You know?
Right. And, you know, what about, talk about the culture of California and jiu-jitsu, like what you were saying, you know, like it just seems like there's been a huge spike, you know, the MMA, the jiu-jitsu. I mean, obviously it's commercialized.
Yes.
When did you really see it just explode? Personally,
honestly, just within the last 3 or 4 years, it's really exploded. I mean, the Brazilians have been flooding in over here since, like I said, the early 90s, from when UFC 1 came in, and Royce Gracie and Rorion Gracie, they were here in Torrance at the time. And then the Brazilians gradually trickled in to Southern California and just started spreading around. And just recently, with the popularity of the UFC in the last 3 or 4 years, how it's just skyrocketed, it's brought Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu right along with it. And California just happens to be the mecca of MMA and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. This is where all the big-name camps are. All the big-name black belt champions are here.
Is that what brought you to Huntington Beach?
Or
Newport?
Well, Newport, one of my sponsors at the time, Sabre, they were a sunglass and apparel company. They were based in Newport, and my wife actually went to work for them. And so we moved to Newport, and they had an office right down the street from our house, so it just worked out good. And so that's when I started training with Kleber.
Wow.
But like I said, it's just California is like the new Brazil. Like, it's just this is where all the jiu-jitsu and MMA guys are at now. It might change, but I doubt it. It's just everything's here. The weather, the beach. And no matter where you go in California, the weather's going to be good.
It's always good.
I mean,
we just got a really good. The weather's always good, but we have a really good in SoCal because of the beach and the mountains.
So you see less Brazilians up in the Bay Area just because it gets foggy and cold up there. But there's still a lot of them up there. But most of them end up literally in Orange County or San Diego County.
Wow.
So
let's talk about families taking classes and training. I think that's your gym represents more than just being a place to learn martial arts.
Yeah.
It's maybe that's that family's only time together during the week.
You're exactly right. It's almost like it's become a place to like hang out, like people look forward to coming to class just to hang out and socialize. And sometimes they show up at the gym. They're not even going to train. They just want to come and see what's going on, see who's down there.
They're inspired.
Hang out,
They're excited.
And like it's sort of, I put it's like, going to the skate park. Some days you go to the skate park, you don't skate, you're just sort of chilling, just watching people skate, So sometimes people come to the gym, they're not training, they just want to watch people train, So it really is like, it's almost become like a hangout for people. But like I said, the families come there, it's like maybe their only time they get to be, other than the dinner table, this is the only thing they get to do together as a family.
Maybe that's their moment. And you're, without knowing, I'm sure but maybe when it started, you didn't really know you were providing that. And that's life-changing.
Even if
families.
it's not a whole family, it's a father-son, father-daughter, mother-daughter. They have some sort of, that's their time to come do something together as a family. Yeah, no, it's really cool.
That's cool. So overall, you've seen your gym increase.
Yes.
As far as students and people coming in.
Oh yeah, man. Like I said, every day there's new students.
Wow.
I would say that the retention rate for every 20 people that come in and try it out, maybe you only retain 1 or 2. It's like I said, it's not for everybody. And especially, and I've seen this with skateboarding and snowboarding or whatever is popular at the time. Right now MMA is really popular. So jiu-jitsu is really popular. And so people see it on TV. I want to do that, And then they come in and they go, wow, this is hard. There's a lot of work that goes into this. Okay. You sweat a lot.
And risk.
And a lot of risk. Then they go, they just think it's easy. And so that's one of the things that, nothing's easy.
No.
Skateboarding's not easy.
If everything was easy, everyone would be doing it.
Yeah. So yeah, people love watching skateboarding on TV, but the first time they go try it and they fall on their butt, they're like, whoa, that's enough for me. And it's no different with, like I said, jiu-jitsu or training. Some people, they come in and they can't handle the first 10 minutes of calisthenics, and they're like, that's enough for me. They think, I don't know. I don't know whether they think they're just going to walk in and start punching people in the face and armbarring people or something,
Yeah.
But it's a lot of hard work. So that's why, like I said, for every 20 people that come in, maybe 1 or 2 actually stick with it.
Now, what's the the structure of a class? Like you said, first there's calisthenics.
It's an hour-and-a-half class, probably 15 minutes of cardio warm-up, which is just, calisthenics, running, push-ups, sit-ups, general warm-up, followed by 15, 20 minutes of technical drilling, which is like taking a jiu-jitsu move or some sort of move and incorporating into just mass repetition that also gets you cardio going, followed by maybe another 20, 30 minutes of actual technical instruction where we practice 1 or 2 techniques specifically at a really slow pace to get the movements all right, followed by 30 or 40 minutes at the end of 5-minute rounds of free sparring with different partners every round.
Oh, wow.
So it's a really good workout. Like I said, I've had people come in weighing 250 pounds, and in 4 or 5 months, they're 180 pounds.
What they're supposed to be, or
yeah. They haven't changed anything other than they started working out, doing jiu-jitsu, and it just the pounds just drop off of them.
Wow.
So
I mean, it's just a completely positive thing. I mean, the wellness factor of people improving their health.
I had told people, minus the injuries, you're gonna get little injuries here and there, but the major injuries, that doesn't usually happen. But the benefits that come along with it far outweigh the risks, because you're going to get in better shape. Condition-wise.
Endurance.
Now, you're not going to be able to do this and get in this kind of shape unless you start eating better. So you can't go to Carl's Jr. and Burger King and eat like crap and come in and do this because you're not going to be able to make it through the workout.
You're not going to feel good. Yeah.
So it forces you to live a healthier lifestyle, you know? It forces myself, you know? Like I said, you know, just overall, you know? Like, and...
It's all connected,
yeah,
right?
and you see it all connected, and you see people in the gym talking to each other like, oh, you know what? I just bought this at the grocery store, organic this, or everything starts changing, and then people, you know, all start working together to stop, you know, eating the mass junk and GMO stuff or whatever, you know? So it creates nothing but a good environment overall, you know?
You know, yeah, I think, you know, once someone commits to that, it's just like a trickle-down effect.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, if I'm doing things at this level, I need to get this much rest, and I can't be putting crap in my body because I need my body to repair itself.
Exactly.
You know, muscles, tissue, and so I could go do it again and keep building. So it's like this trickle-down effect of goodness if they commit to it.
And it's all starts with jiu-jitsu or whatever, you know, and like I said, people start talking, and then like we'll see people on Facebook all of a sudden we'll start talking about, hey, you know, don't eat this because it's got this in it, or you know,
they're more conscious.
Yeah, it wakes them up.
And
exactly.
that's, you know, you're talking about the mass junk.
Yeah.
I think, just to go off on a little tangent, a lot of people don't realize they're in this comfort zone and they're consuming nothing but bad information.
Yes.
You know, we talk about the conspiracy stuff, you know, television and just bad content.
Yeah.
And bad food.
Yeah.
You know, and
goes right along with it.
Yeah. And right here, take it. You know what's so funny was last summer there was this ad campaign that Walmart had. And I couldn't believe my eyes. You know, because last summer I started like juicing and just really, you know, trying to eat healthier. A lot of live food, a lot of fruits and vegetables, cut out the red meat.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I feel great.
Yeah.
You know, and that was one step for me. So I'm being more conscious and I'm looking at these billboards all over the freeways in Los Angeles. It's the dark blue and it just has a 2 liter of Pepsi. And a microwave pizza.
Oh, no.
And it says Walmart. And it says...
Are you serious?
Effortless dinner.
Wow.
That's their ad campaign. I'm like, exactly.
Wow.
It's effortless.
Yeah.
It's completely effortless.
Man, that's the kind of stuff that just makes me sick, you know?
Yeah, I mean...
Literally, both mentally and physically. Just thinking about that.
So they're putting that on... So they're putting that on a billboard. That's their ad campaign.
Yeah.
Thousands of dollars across SoCal. I mean, imagine how much that costs, right?
Wow.
You know,
that is crazy.
And it's a 2 liter of Pepsi and like microwave food, and it says effortless dinner. I'm like, well, that's just the catalyst for a lazy parenting routine.
And not realizing how bad that is to put in your body, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's just crazy. You know, that's insane. Wow.
What's like the components in your diet these days? Do you juice a lot? Ever try it?
Well, no, I've actually tried it, but we don't have a juicer. But I mean, man, we eat really healthy. I would say that 90% of the stuff we buy is organic. You know, we try to almost eat, you know, some stuff you just can't get.
Sure.
So if it's not organic, we'll make sure it's non-GMO. You know, but the same thing, you know, lots of fresh fruit, vegetables, nuts. We still eat meat, but all organic meat or, you know, organic beef, chicken. I mean, just clean food, you know?
Yep.
And don't get me wrong, we'll have those cheat days where, man, it's just like...
In and out.
Yeah, you know? But it's far and few between, you know? And I think you got to do that with yourself, you know, too. You know, like every now and then, like, boom, let's do that. Let's get rid of it. And literally, like, we just did it the other night, and we were both going, oh, my gosh, I feel sick, you know? Like, from one serving of it.
When you're so used to a certain level.
Yeah.
And then you take in that bad stuff.
Yeah.
It's like it weighs down on you.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, like, I'm not used to this no more.
Yeah.
Which is a good habit.
Yeah. And people complain about the price versus, you know, but it's like, man, people complain all day long, like, I don't want to pay this much for organic tomatoes because, you know, the other tomatoes cost this. But yet they'll go spend money on other worthless stuff and not even think about it, you know? But the stuff you're actually putting into your body, you know, people have a problem with price.
Exactly.
And my
You're investing
problem is
in yourself.
it shouldn't cost that much anyway. I do agree. You know, why does it cost more to raise something right? You know, it shouldn't cost more if somebody raised something right. But at the same time, you shouldn't complain about it, you know, if it is.
It's so funny because people will, you know, invest in their video games. They're going to keep them idle, but they're not going to invest in their life. with good food.
No.
or good classes.
Yeah.
Whether it's jiu-jitsu or yoga or both.
Yeah. It's just, they said it's a whole lifestyle.
Completely.
But I mean, that's the thing. I mean, skateboarders have always been like that. Like, Mike V and Ed Templeton, these guys were, skateboarders have been like vegetarians and conscious of what they put in their body for a long time. I mean, and then you have the other end, you have the skaters who are like boozers, smokers, drinkers, but a lot of skateboarders, have always been artists or musicians and, like I said, aware politically and aware of what they're putting in their bodies, and that was always, to me, been what I liked about skateboarding as well. I was never one of the dudes that I still don't like going to the skate park and seeing the guys cruising around with a brown bag, smoking cigarettes. That's just not my scene.
Right. Right.
Like, that's sort of like, maybe that's just why one of the reasons that's all the NorCal guys is sort of like that, Not all of them, but that's sort
I know
of
what
where
you're saying.
That's sort of where that scene was from. Maybe that's why I never got
the Pabst Blue Ribbon, and the cigarettes,
the trucker hat.
Yeah, that kind
I was
of thing.
never into that scene, so maybe that's why I came to skate in Southern California a lot.
Yeah, and everything's regional, just like music.
Yeah,
and I think like there's more of a very kind of like flowing style down here where people are like will surf and skate and do all other sports.
Yeah.
Like you're down here doing jiu-jitsu in Orange County.
Yeah, exactly.
With your skate routes and and there's this beautiful ocean. I mean, how could you not take a walk on the beach at the minimum?
Exactly.
Besides go in it. So, well, Tom Knox, I want to thank you for being a part of the 122nd episode of Los Angeles Nista.
Cool.
This episode was brought to us by Death Wish Skateboards, Amoeba Music in Hollywood, Flood Control Skateboards, and El Cholo Restaurant and Poppy's Pizza in downtown. Thank you so much.